Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I see people are rolling in here. I am El Magni. I am content manager at Prevu3D. And introducing our guest today, I have Sam Lee, managing director at Ataris. Sam, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Ataris and what you do there.
Yeah, sure. So Taurus predominantly we specialize in all things laser scanning, and we've been formed for around 4 or 5 years now, working mainly in the laser scanning space, doing kind of factories and then maritime infrastructure, all types of vessels, all grades. But for the last 2 years, we've been really pushing forward a digital twin platform with the guys at Prevu. The last kind of 18 months have had some really good take up in the maritime industry. So we just wanted to share kind of the lessons learned we're seeing with you guys and see if there's any carryover between land-based industry and the maritime industry.
Oh, there's plenty. We'll get into all of that. I'm also joined by Frank, my colleague from Prevu3D. Frank is one of the OGs. He's been with us from the get-go. Frank, maybe you want to tell us a little bit what you do at Prevu3D.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, El, for the intro. So yeah, I've been with Preview now for 5 years or so. I'm enterprise account manager here. So I've been leading different digital transformation initiative, either with Sam or other customer into the AEC or food and beverage or automobile industry. So I work directly with scanning partners or customers, engineers, maintenance operation teams. On being able to reduce the downtime of the project and maybe accelerate times on the production. So that's my goal at Preview 3D.
Wonderful. Love to hear it. And just for everyone joining us today, we have a live chat going, and we really do want this to be an engaging conversation. We want you guys to be able to contribute. So drop us a comment, drop us questions, let us know where you're joining us from as well. I'm in Montreal, Frank's in Montreal. Sam, where are you joining us from?
Sunny Glasgow.
Wonderful. Awesome. Okay. So just to clarify today, this is not a maritime deep dive, although obviously we are joined by an expert in the field. But this is about managing complex, asset heavy environments where access is hard. So just want to grab a quick audience pulse here. We do have a survey that we're going to be running during the event. If you can let us know which best describes your environment. So maritime offshore assets, industrial plants, manufacturing sites, infrastructures, or just like a mix of everything, nothing asset specific. This is really going to help shape our conversation, guide us. Again, jump in with comments, questions, and let's get into it. So, Sam, in what way do ships, are they, they're referred to as the factories of the sea? Where does maritime reality change the rules?
Yeah, I mean, like I like the comparison factory of the sea because when you first get onto a ship, you are like it's super congested, there's pipework everywhere. Cargo's prioritized over everything, so the engine room's tiny. But obviously, for most people who work in the land space, maybe it's an hour drive, maybe it's a short flight, across Europe, but your office and your factory doesn't move. If you're trying to get on a ship, it might be trading Chile to China, Singapore to London. You can't just quickly pop down and have a look. And ship managers are required to manage the asset as if they can do that, which is obviously a huge problem for them, which is slowly being solved.
So travel becomes a little bit harder. And what does that, how does that affect operations?
Yeah, massively. So typically we see, and it might be the same for the land guys, one kind of project manager or superintendent is in charge of more than one site, so 4 ships, typically 3 to 4 ships. So obviously if they trade all over the world, that one person's required to travel to that vessel at least once a year. And typically you're out of the office for kind of 10 days. So if they're traveling to the vessel, their other 3 aren't, being managed probably as well as they could be because they're away on the other one. A lot of the times, if they're sailing with a vessel, there's no signal at sea, which is something I found out the hard way from Gibraltar to London on my first sea
Right.
trip. So,
Fun times.
yeah. So there's all those barriers, and that obviously then plays into the downtime and all the other operational stuff people will be more than aware of, right? If you can't physically see your asset, go and talk to it, even deal with emails, you're going to see a huge kind of delay to all of those tasks that are coming in just from the nature of traveling, right?
And if you have one person traveling and you have one person inspecting these vessels, how does that, what kind of challenges does that present when you want to share that information after, if you're dealing with, 2D plans or even drawings or physical actual documents rather than digital?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. So the guys, obviously there is a crew on board, right? So typically for all manner of things, you would email the captain or the chief engineer and say, could you get me a picture of, could you show me the whatever the thing is, whatever the latest fire is? But obviously you're relying on a guy with a phone and potentially your memory of the last time you were on board. So you get kind of a squint picture with a thumb over the camera, and you're kind of trying to piece where that is, walk through from your memory to help diagnose the problem from the last time you were there. So that in itself, being able to give them a twin where they can just sit, double click, and be in the space. They can, even if they don't talk to the ship, if they just look at the email and then kind of put themselves where the problem is and go, oh yeah, I know where that is, and it just saves a lot of time. The amount of times I've been with superintendents or even with the surveyors who say, can you show me? And the first thing they do is they get their mobile phone out and they try and scroll to the latest picture that they last took, and you're like, this, it's not their fault. That's the thing that's available, right? But with this
Sure.
tool, it's just so much more powerful. You can just double click and you're in the space and you can show them, right? So
And what are some reactions, I guess, when people do actually do a capture of these spaces? People that have, maybe it's their first time recording their space and having this digital twin tool. What are some of the reactions that even Frank, maybe, your client facing, the reactions that people have when they first see these environments?
I mean, typically they don't understand first because they don't even know that those things are available in the market.
yeah.
So this kind of our job, to educate them and to provide them with context on how they can use this uh, and get, a bang for the buck at the end of the day.
Mm.
So before we even talk about chips, where do you see teams struggling the most to get a shared, reliable view of their assets?
Yeah, I mean, across the board, even people that aren't in the kind of industrial sector or maritime sector, right? If somebody says, could you just quickly pull up the drawing of insert thing here? It's always in a folder somewhere hidden under something. Whereas if you've attached that drawing, that thing to the piece of equipment in the model, worst case, you can just quickly go to it, open it, and it's there. There's no, oh, it's on someone's email. Oh, sorry, the lady over here has it. And so it just immediately streamlines that decision, which in shipping is huge because you get audited on that sort of stuff, right? So the ISM auditor or the ISO auditor will say, show me this, show me how you manage this. And it's always a pain to try and find out, like, where is the document, who's it with, is it live? Like,
And for teams, and I would assume that for teams that have never seen the vessel before, teams that need to be onboarded, like for health and safety protocols and stuff like that, this could be really, and maybe there's a language barrier in the team. People are coming together from different geolocations.
well, the question from Jason, do you have a compressed time to scan it, is another thing, right? Like that's the other, like, yes, I have one funny story. We got asked to scan a ship in Australia. Obviously, we're in the UK. You need to come scan the ship tomorrow. Okay, we're not going to be able to do that. Why? That's not acceptable. Why? How come you can't come to the vessel? There's plenty of times. Like, no, it's tomorrow in Australia. The ship will be gone by the time we get there. We can't go. Oh, you need to try. Okay, we'll try. But typically, you're under a huge pressure for ships. So for most ships, it takes about 5 days to scan. If we do the whole kind of Maritwin monkey eye, like bridge roof all the way down to the engine room and the whole ship, takes about 5 days. So you normally either pick a route, so if a vessel's trading, it doesn't stop us scanning. So you can just we'll get on maybe say in Algeciras and we'll take it through to Naples or somewhere similar like that. It's a nice kind of short route. Or if it's a new build, which is we've done recently, a few new builds, it's much easier, right? You know when the ship's coming out of dock, so you just kind of count back and say, give ourselves a bit of time. So typically that's how we get around it. We do it at sea if possible. And then if not, we'll do it if it's in a dry dock scenario. So if it's going to be in for 2 weeks, we can typically join toward the back end of the dry dock when there's not as much scaffolding and most of the painting's done. So that obviously the visuals are nice and clean. There's not people kind of everywhere. And we can plan for it that way. If that answers your question, Jason.
Yeah, and maybe speaking of visuals, maybe we can, Frank, you can share with us what that would look like.
Yeah, totally. Just present my screen. And maybe Sam, you can share with us a little bit, what you can see, what you see in the video, not in the video, but in the platform, and give a good understanding to our listeners and viewers what they actually see inside the boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this was, ironically, to touch on Jason's point, this was a ship that was trading northern Italy. So we got on in one port and got off on the next port and captured this. This actually took 3 days, not 5, because it's small, as you can see. But you can see the comparisons immediately between an engine room and a factory. Like if you look at the pipes on the roof, all of the equipment that's all crammed in, it's a really, really congested space. And you'll typically get an email from an engineer saying X is broken, and then you have to try and think from your memory where that is. So these are lube oil purifiers and fuel purifiers. So they might say, oh, it's in the purifier room. And you're like, okay, all right, you go there, and then they walk it through in their mind or get their mobile phone out. So to be able to just open this and be in the space, the time saving so much quicker. And it enables, from what we've seen, superintendents to kind of reduce their workload on board. So they'll do a lot of the work preemptively beforehand. And then when they go to on board, they're only going to see very specific things that they maybe have gone through the model and said, oh, we maybe have a look at that. And if they've got a retrofit upcoming, maybe they've done some of the planning in Prevu already. So then they can kind of walk the space with the model already in mind for, oh yeah, I figured out how this is going to work. So it's super, super useful. But yeah, this engine room was very, very small compared to some of the stuff we scan.
And if we take 2 steps back, what does it take for a team to get this kind of view? We're showing a really beautiful data set here. We're inside the vessel. We're inside an engine room. It's very clear. It's a meshed view. It's quite precise. But what does it take from, capture to delivery to get here? And what does that look like in terms of timeline? And yeah.
Yeah, so this one, like I said, this took us 3 days. So if you tack a day on each end for a bit of travel, you can pretty much get anywhere in the world. And most ships you can do in a full week and a bit. So if you started Monday, you were going to be done pretty much any ship, any size by the Sunday. Then when you come back, that's where the real value is, right? Like joining these together, making sure the post-processing is done to a level where the whole model's what we class as engineering grade. So we're happy to give this to clients and say, if you want to take those auxiliary engines out, you can. It's not, I think that's something we should probably labor on a little bit, is a lot of people, a lot of companies and a lot of kind of products are available where you can kind of walk around and you get that kind of estate agent view, bubble view, and you just move around the platform.
Sure.
You're not going to be engineering from that, right? That's a different use case. If we capture it like this, you get that and you get an engineering grade model. So essentially you get 2 models in one in roughly the same time period for capture, right? So by having that enables you then to unlock the kind of platform across multiple departments. So shipping companies, probably like the industrial guys, it's not just a project team, it's project ops, crewing, health and safety. There's all these various departments. So these models then sit kind of almost like the C-suite, right? They sit like above them all, and everyone can feed into them. Everybody can access them. And again, then you're getting 2 models for the price of one, multi-department use, and everybody's use case is slightly different. So we found right at the start that we were kind of focusing this more on a technical resource. You know, we can help you do retrofits because that was our background, was retrofits. But then people started saying, well, could we use it for crew training? And then you think the guys are being hired from, you know, Philippines or India, and they've never seen the ship they're going to until they get there. So you can now give them a model and say, just walk from your cabin, walk to the lifeboat, do a quick onboarding lesson of how the lifeboat works on this specific ship. You can walk through the engine room if you're an engineer, and it removes that kind of first 2 or 3 days on board where you're like, is it left? I think I'll go left here, and then I go down, and it happens everywhere. And the bigger the ship is, the more it happens, right? It happened to us when we was in the last build yard. I walked 300 meters the wrong way. And you have to turn around and be like, oh, back we go. I'm actually on the starboard side, not the port side. So it's one of those things. But being able to give this to the crew, we wouldn't have known that they wanted it. We didn't know that was a thing until we put it into a shipping company, and they said, can we do it for that? So obviously they can, and they are now. So that's another kind of cool part of the tool, to be honest, that we're liking at the moment.
So you mentioned different teams being able to use it, which I think is very interesting, but also the scaling component. So if you have several of the same vessel, you would be able to digitize your fleet, or how would that work? And do you have customers using it in that capacity?
Yeah, so we have, at the moment, we have a customer that's done, so ships are typically built in like batches. They call them sister ships, but they're normally more like cousins. They're not really ships that are exactly the same, as little tweaks. So they're doing like the lead vessel of each batch. And then the plan is to then use that data for the sister vessels, open up the API component and making it a far more kind of intelligent digital twin, which is a massive step for maritime, to be honest, because even if we go back maybe 6-7 years, we were doing some work for a large Danish owner, and they were having to fly to Glasgow to sit with our guys doing engineering to then see how things were working, because you couldn't just share models. And the way the technology's moved on, the way that everything's now web-based, it's so much more useful, and that obviously unlocks bigger, better things for fleets. So you can bring a whole fleet on board instead of it being project by project, you know.
And have you seen also the use case of teams, like design teams, utilizing different tools? Because I know, and maybe Frank can speak to this, in the manufacturing industry, how once you do have this visual point of truth and different teams will be leveraging it, what can we do in terms of design? What are you seeing? How are you seeing design teams use the tool?
Yeah, so first off, like Sam said earlier, usually those type of vessel might or don't have any blueprints or don't have any CAD models or 2D floor plans of that. So it's starting very complicated as a first to start and deep dive in that project if you don't have any visual. So first off, the design crew like to have that type of data in front of them, so they can just have a better understanding of the project. They can, utilize or different tools, as exporting some data directly into their new project they're doing using different plugins that we have. So not to mention, example, the Revit plugin or the different export format that we provide. But these are all I would say tools that allow them to take better decision, being able to get something more quickly operationally, and provide a gain on what they deliver directly.
Excellent. We have a question here from Jason. I'll add this here. So maybe Frank, this one's for you. Okay. About sharing 3D twins.
Yeah, so you can share. So we have different product right now where you can just send a link directly to a customer either with a web link, and people just connect directly to the page, and then they can just view the data. So if they only want to take quick decisions, so they can take measurements. We also have annotation inside where people can just start communicating much more easier. So yes, this is 100% available and ready to be used.
So from a UX perspective, it is a tool that maybe we can talk a little bit about the adoption of it. You know, Sam, you talked about how the maritime industry is a little bit more old school and they're kind of starting their digital transformation. So this tool, from what we saw just from the view, and maybe we can flash the other data set here. Wonderful, to give us an idea of how to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
What is the learning curve for people that are not necessarily technical to get onboarded, even just when it comes to navigating through the platform? What does that look like?
I think it's surprisingly easy. I mean, you see stuff like this and everyone's doing instant reaction is that's cool. And then once somebody finds something cool, like you want to then learn it. I guess it's not like it's not like your standard kind of, the office have told you you've got to use a tool and you're like, oh God, I need to go to training.
An Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah,
right?
you see this, you're like, so I can put a person in here and walk around. Yeah, show me how to do that. And then on their own time, they can do it, right? So we did a training session, it was about a year ago now, where that exact thing happened. We flashed up and they're, oh, whoa, that's cool. And it's immediately like, how do we access this? She's, oh, just click here and you can move around, and it's so intuitive to use, and the thing you're viewing looks cool. So it's not kind of a boring, you know, read a PDF and try and see how it crosses over. So yeah, the adoption's been really good. But again, that kind of, the adoption of things that you wouldn't potentially think of has been good as well, right? Like I said, with the crewing, people get on it, find out that it's quite cool and easy to use, and then their brain goes, oh, this would be really good. I could use this for X. So you're not kind of, you're basically putting the tools in their hands and then saying, have a look, see what you think, and then kind of, you know, that they then drive that decision, which then makes the take up so much better, right? Because it's their choice, they want to use it.
Sure.
Totally.
The ownership, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like you mentioned, ownership. I mean, people need to have a clear standardization process internally just to start using those tools, being able to have the management being able to provide a clear vision on what they want to give as a tool to the company. So when we have that clear vision, then it's much more easier to get that ball rolling.
Excellent. Do we have any questions from the audience? Is there, oh, we have Nicholas here. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to use Prevu3D's piping tool set to extract piping models in the high density shipboard environments?
Yeah, we have. If you're in the space, I imagine you're thinking more of the stuff that's in the deck head where you can't really get, you can only get kind of half a pipe. Some of that stuff is obviously slightly more complicated. However, we typically ask clients, you know, first case, what are you doing this for? Are you doing it because you want to do it for a twin, or are you doing it because you think there's going to be retrofit stuff coming up? So then you can kind of gauge that there's some areas where you could just kind of walk through, and then there's other areas, you know, pay real close attention because we think we might want to upgrade here or X, Y, and Z. So then obviously you just get the scanner up and get the piping. But the system, from what we've seen and from the guys I've seen use it, is fairly intuitive in terms of, or probably intuitive is not the word, it's fairly smart that when you click the pipe, it does understand that's a DN100, that's a DN80, like it knows the pipe with not, you don't need to get kind of 3/4 of the pipe size. So we've not run into any problems, but I'll put our hands up. We're not kind of stress testing this yet to be doing full piping extraction, but from what we've seen and what the guys have shown us, there's no issues as of yet with any issues like that. So,
and I think you brought up a really good point there, Sam, is how do you want to use the tool, right? So when you're getting ready to, when you're prepping for your capture, this will really dictate, you know, the hardware that you're going to use, the precision at which you're going to scan the capture. of your space based on what you want to do with it. So this is definitely something I think, Frank, you can speak to, right? So the how deep do you want to get into your capture? Which team, which use case are we looking at here with the data set? And that's, we provide many views inside the platform exactly for that reason.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
So we have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say that, yeah, like you mentioned, there's different feature for different use cases that we provide inside the tool. And as Sam was mentioning earlier, the fact that when you use different scanners for different job, then it can just accelerate things, that can just bring different details to the quality of what we're delivering inside the platform. So I think this comes up to Nicholas' question as well.
Also, to kind of add to it, if you excuse me, if you know you're going to want high density piping captured, obviously that's going to dictate the scanner you use. But then it also means that you could then say, well, if you're going to put it onto Preview, do you want to tack a day onto the project, do the rest of the accommodation or the rest of the area around the engine room, right, and give the client almost like a taster of this is what a digital twin of your engine room would look like? Because even if it's not the engine room, even if you do engine room funnel, engine room in the the pump room, which is another area that people can't get into at sea, and things like that, where you can start saying, well, you're going to use this data for engineering grade modeling. You could almost add, you could add a day and capture more detail. Just picking up Nicholas' point here.
Oh.
Yeah, not yet. Purely from a adoption point of view in maritime. So as everybody always says, maritime's kind of slowly. They want it to be guaranteed before they implement it. So we've put the twin in. The twin's now being played across multiple departments. They're now kind of baking that into their day-to-day. And then the next move is to start bringing the sister vessels on. And when we do that, that's when kind of APIs, IoT, that sort of world then comes in, because obviously it requires more feedback from them, from their side. So the answer is no, but purely because the kind of the industry at the level we're at right now isn't there just yet. So we kind of need to develop it and then take them through slowly with it. But I get Frank will probably have more of an answer of what's possible within the platform, but from a maritime side, not yet.
Well, we do have a good 40% of you guys that are from the maritime industry, which is great. We weren't sure if we'd have more manufacturing, so I hope you guys found this this conversation insightful. And we do have time for one or two more questions if anyone wants to contribute. If anyone, no, nothing on the chat.
And on that side, maybe to tell everyone, so Sam is not only an expert in the maritime industry, but also a scanning expert. So, we've been working on food and beverage project together. We've been working on chemical project together, and more. So this is another area of expertise that we can utilize Sam in our day-to-day if you guys have project.
And his contact is right on the screen. You can reach out directly. You can also reach out directly to Frank if you want more information on Prevu3D. A little housekeeping for us. We will be at Geo Week in February with our partners, Kinetic Vision. So if you are at the Geospatial show, pop by, come see us. We'll have some fun stuff going on, some demos at the booth. Thank you all for joining us today. This is a new format that we're testing out, having our partners join us for more informal conversation. So if you enjoyed this, let us know. We will try and set up the next one. And have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much, Frank, for joining us. Sam, thanks again.
No worries.
See you guys.
Have a good day, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for that.
Bye. Thank you.
See you.